Backhouse Reviews Delivery Man. And Delivery Man, you know, I'm expecting a comedy. I see the trailers for the film when they came out last year. Wasn't something I was interested in watching, if I'm honest with you. The Vince Vaughan stick is sort of... It's not as strong or as good as it was. The trailers looked like it was going to be a comedy about a guy who'd fathered 500 kids. And I didn't even find that idea interesting or funny. It just didn't appeal to me. The trailers looked like he was going to be some sort of guardian angel who was going to, when he realised he had these 500 kids, go out of his way to try to help them in some way. So that's what I assumed the film was going to be about. So never watched it in the cinema. Wasn't really interested in doing that. It comes on Amazon Prime. Well, I'll stream it for free. Don't have an issue doing that. And it's a little bit different from what I was expecting. Doesn't make it any better, if I'm honest with you. And one of the issues that the film Vince Vaughan has really, he tried it with the internship. The Delivery Man's the same. It has these many different threads of storyline that are running through, and none of them are developed properly. None of them end properly. You don't care for the threads. The internship had 3 or 4 different threads running through it, romance, stuff like that going on, and it all felt a bit contrived. It all felt like they were trying to make The Wedding Crashers, but instead made a shittier version of it. And maybe if I watch the internship again, I'll review it again, but I don't think that's very likely. But Delivery Man was very similar to that. Vince Vaughan, he owes $80,000 to a loan shark. His girlfriend's pregnant. He's fathered 533 children. 142 want to know about him, and he wants to be their guardian angel. He's also got a best friend who is a lawyer, Chris Pratt, probably the best thing in the film really. And the lawyer actually has got a mum who you never see, but the mum doesn't believe in him, and he's never won a case before. This case could define him. He's got 4 kids that you don't really know if he loves or hates. I think it's probably a love-hate relationship with how they're behaving. God knows what happened to the wife or girlfriend. You don't see that, and this is the trouble with these different threads you've got going on. You don't see enough. I mean, Vince Vaughan's girlfriend, Emma, who's pregnant, you see her in maybe, I can think of 4 scenes. One is the scene where she's pregnant. One is the scene where she's at work. Another is a scene where she meets his family. And another is when she gives birth. Maybe there was 1 or 2 scenes in between that. But it all felt rushed. You didn't feel like there was a relationship there. And yet this is someone who he's having a baby with, and at the end of the film he tells her, oh, by the way, I have 500 kids, and you're going to have to deal with that. And she does, and I don't know, it just felt a bit that was a bit rushed. The people he owes money to as well, he owes $80,000 to some loan sharks. They come and half drown him, and that seems really quick. And then a little bit later you sort of find out they've then visited his dad, and his brothers are like, oh, you're taking the piss, you gotta sort this shit out, get the money. And his dad is angry with him for a little bit, and then the next day or a week later gives him the $100,000, or because the bill's gone up to $100,000 now. And again, that all just felt a bit rushed. And they make you want to care for these issues, and you can't. If the film had been, in hindsight, I look back at it now and I thought the idea of him being a guardian angel to these kids was a fucking shit idea. But in hindsight, looking back at what the film actually was, the guardian angel idea may have actually been a decent idea. If you watched the film of Vince Vaughn comically trying to help these people out, putting himself in situations that you wouldn't expect, and you got a little bit of that in the film, but because you had all these other threads running through, it just wasn't enjoyable. The film actually starts off with some humorous, comedic. There's some humorous stuff going on, a little bit funny, you might say. And then it just becomes this drama. And I know it's marketed as a comedy drama, but it gets a bit dull. And, I was kind of sort of happy and waiting for the film to end. The only reason why I was watching it to the end is because, I wanted to know, what was going to happen so I could review it. Would I ever watch it again? No. Would I recommend it? No. Vince Vaughan, as I said, he's got this problem now. He makes The Wedding Crashers in 2004, 2005. Great film. And that film had those threads running through, but they were treated properly. They were given the time to develop. And you look at some of his recent output, and I haven't watched The Dilemma, but I'm told it's not great. The Watch with Ben Stiller was pretty poor. When you consider the star power there of Ben Stiller, Jonah Hill, Vince Vaughan, the guy at the IT Crowd, The Internship with Owen Wilson. It's not clicking, it's not working. Whatever he's doing at the moment is not working. He hasn't had a hit since Couples Retreat. Probably his last good film. Maybe, I quite liked Four Christmases. I thought that was okay. Delivery Man is not okay. And you kind of understand why it struggled at the US box office, because people are tired of the same stuff going on. And you look at the poster of the advertisement of the film, Vince Vaughn surrounded by a group of kids, and he's sort of just shrugging, and it's a bit like, yeah, that's what you do. You kind of shrug and you do the Vince Vaughn shtick, the spiel, and it's not enough anymore. You've got to do a little bit more than that. And I was really, I suppose, disappointed, is how I'd put it across. I'm not going to rant about the film. It's not the worst film ever made. It's not the worst comedy ever made, or dramedy ever made. It just wasn't worthwhile. You've got a decent idea. I don't know if it's a true story of some guy who's fathered 500 odd kids under the name of Starbuck, and some of the kids want to know who the dad is. And I was also a little bit, there was a scene where he's following one of the kids, as you do, and he follows them into like a hotel, I suppose, and they're actually doing like a meet or presentation about kids who want to meet Starbuck, who want to find out who their dad is. And so suddenly he's surrounded by 120 odd kids of his. And there were two things that I found a little bit strange, is that, one, they don't work out who this fucking guy is, who is seemingly turning up all the time, and they're like, oh hey, I know you, and then another kid's like, oh hey, I know you too, how do you know this guy? That sort of made no sense, that they didn't sort of clock on that something's not right here. But also that he introduces himself as his disabled son's dad, because there's one kid who's disabled and who's in a wheelchair and in a home, and obviously he can't attend these events, and he starts introducing himself as his dad and his adopted dad, and I sort of thought, well, I don't know, dude, that's a bit deep doing that. I mean, you're not. You're actually his real dad, but you're using that as a cover story. I thought it was a bit. Yeah, I don't know. I thought it was a bit dodgy. But if you want to look at the positives of the film, Chris Pratt was good. I love him in Parks and Recreation. Obviously, he's decent in Guardians of the Galaxy. He's funny, and in this film, he is genuinely. I don't know if he's funny. He's decent in it though. You come across and every scene he's in was pretty much a decent scene. I don't know if that's his delivery. What would be nice would have been seeing him maybe leading a film like this. I don't know if he's perhaps a bit too young. But yeah, him having a lead in a film like this and seeing what he could do with it, because I think, it's getting to the stage now where people like Vince Vaughan, Ben Stiller, they've had their time, and there's a new wave of comedians coming through, and it's going to be about how Vince Vaughan sort of reacts to that. A lot of people tend to go into those family-friendly shit, you know, like Eddie Murphy did, and yeah, eventually that eventually gets to an end. Jim Carrey did that a little bit as well with he did Lemony Snicket and Christmas Carol, and he's not really sort of adjusted to, I suppose, the changing landscape. You know, I know he's done Dumb and Dumber 2, but where Vince Vaughan goes, you know, I don't know. He's got another film coming out about a business trip gone crazy. Actually, sounds quite interesting. I read there was some reshoots going on, and then after that, he's got another film coming out about a hitman or assassin who puts out a life insurance on himself to make sure his daughter has also got some money. So that's kind of an interesting idea. But that's done by WWE Films, so I'm not sure if that's the most great career choice. You know, some of their films are pretty poor, although the Halle Berry Cool film was quite good. Maybe we'll review that when we come to it. But yeah, in summary, Delivery Man, yeah, not great. Wouldn't bother wasting your time. You know, if you're going to watch a Vince Vaughn film, watch Wedding Crashers.